Hi, I'm then Mike Allen Mapa. And the name of the experiment is the print function. So, our objectives in this experiment is to become familiar with the print function and its formatting capabilities, to experiment with the escape character command, to discover and fixing basic syntax error, and to become familiar with the print function and its formatting capabilities. So let's proceed to part 1 and the procedures. So first, let's open the idle Python 3.8. Then let's type hello Python. So print hello Python. So that's our syntax. And the second one, use the print function again, and this time print your first name while write your syntax in the space provided. So print then Mike Allen. So again, there's no syntax. So the third one is remove the double quotes and run your code. Watch Python's reaction. What kind of error is thrown? So print, remove the double quotes, then Mike. Enter. So there was a syntax error, so the argument is not defined. So the Python didn't read the word inside the print. So number 4, then remove the parentheses, put back the double quotes, and run the code again. What kind of error is thrown this time? So again, print, remove the parentheses, put back the double quote, then Mike. So invalid syntax. A syntax occur due to the lack of parentheses. So number 5, experiment as much as you can. Change the double quote to single quotes. Use multiple print functions on the same line and then on the different lines. See what happened. So print function, parentheses, single, and then Mike, rather hello then print, single quote again, then Mike. So invalid syntax, error. So invalid syntax, so there's an error. So I conclude that using multiple functions on the same line can cause syntax error. So questions. What is the effect the print function causes? So the causes of print function is to accept one or more data and transfer it to a readable form. So the answer is the function cause, the cause of print function is to accept one or more data and transfer it to a readable form that users can read. So number 2, what argument does print function expect? So it expects everything. It can process all types of data. Number 3, what value does print functions evaluate? So it doesn't evaluate. So the function itself is enough. So part 2, number 1, type in the window editor and run the code. Copy, editor, remove the indentation or the space, F5 to run. Okay. So the Python can execute the function in each line. The Python cannot execute 2 functions in one line or in the same line. But on the other hand, it can execute the code in order. Number 2, modify the code as shown below. So again, remove the indentation, F5 to run. So the empty print function is a way to make new blank line. It is a way to separate two functions with arguments. So number 3, modify the code again and observe carefully the output. So, in my observation, let's clarify the \n first. So, the name of this character is new line character. So, this character allows us to create a new output line in our arguments. So, the word after the /n or the \n have entered and created a new line. So, basically, yung \n, ang ginagawa niya is ibinababa niya yung words or phrases after nung command na yon. So number 4, play around the code. As we can see, we have double slash in the middle line or in the second line. So this is what will happen. As we run the codes, we can see na there's only one slash, and this is the reason. So when I type this argument, there's only one backslash that appeared. So the reason of this is the first slash represents as an escape character, while in the second backslash becomes a string character. So number 5, look at the editor window, test the code below. So then try to run it. So the spaces removed from the strings have appeared again. Can you explain why? So I have noticed that phrases separated by commas were now separated by spaces. So I assume that if texts are separated by commas, Python will automatically insert spaces between them. So number 6, we will test a new code again. Then run the code. So in my observations, the argument and combines the two string in one line. So this allows us to combine two separate strings or two separate codes into one line. So let's proceed to the sep argument, number 7. The window editor, type the code, then run. So this is what will happen in the sep argument. Now, in my observations again, the sep argument replaces the spaces in the string. It was replaced by a dash because it is the command that was read by the sep argument or by the Python. So anything that we put inside the sep argument will automatically replace the spaces in the string. So for number 8, mix argument. As you can see in the first line, the string was separated by the dash. And while in the second line, the first two lines is, the first words in the string was separated by an underscore, while the rest was separated by asterisk. So, in my observations, the two keyword or rather the two arguments was mixed. So, the effect of these two arguments was mixed. So, in the first line, as I said, the strings were separated by the underscore, while in the second line it was separated by the asterisk. Considering the first line, it has an argument that ends in asterisk to be combined in the second line. So, pag nangyari yung ganito na meron tayong command sa end na nag-end sa asterisk, it allows us to combine the other line para maging isa sila. It allows us to combine the first and the second string in one line. So, part 3. So, the scenario. We strongly encourage you to play with the code we've written for you. Make some, maybe even destructive amendments. Feel free to modify any part of the code. But there is one condition. Learn from your mistake and draw your own conclusion. So, try to minimize the number of prints, function, invocation by inserting the backslash and sequence into the strings. Make the arrow twice as large but keep the proportions. Duplicate the arrow, placing both arrows in side by side. Note, a string must be multiplied by using the following trick. So 4, remove any quotes and look carefully at Python's response. Pay attention to where the Python sends an error. Is this the place where the error really exists? 5, do the same with some of the parentheses. Change any of the print word into something else, differing only in a case. Example, what happens now? Or replace some of the quotes while approaches. Watch what happens carefully. So, window editor. So let's print it. Let's run it first. After that, you can see how small the arrow is. So first, I will insert backslash n on every line. After that, let's adjust the spacing in the second line. Then in the third line, we can try to remove the print and multiply it by 2. We can also change the quotation into a single notation or apostrophe. Then let's try to run it. F5. Then as you can see, we have now a larger arrow. Try to run it again. Adjust the spacing. F5. Then one more. So as you can see, we have a larger arrow and a proportion arrow. So, in my observation, here are the things that I observed and made to make the arrow bigger. First, I put the argument backslash n on every string. Then after that, I adjusted the spacing in the second line. I also removed the print function on the third line and multiply it by 2. I also changed the quote in the fifth line and make it a single quote or the apostrophe, while the others remains the same. So not every process are applicable for everyone because it can cause syntax error. So I also noticed that changing this lowercase letter p to a capital P can cause error too. So let's run it. So the name print is not defined. So removing some of the parentheses will cause errors too. So this is the code that I have adjusted. So conclusion, I can conclude that print function is one of the basic codes here in Python. It is also a type of function that can be used on every type of coding here in Python. So I also conclude that this is one of the most important functions that we must learn in Python. It is also one of the basic fundamentals in coding. So recommendation, we should learn how to properly use the print function. By mastering this type of function, it can help us in many ways, most especially in advanced coding and to our coming subjects or to our coming topics here in programming subjects. We should also practice different forms, techniques of this type of function.